It was a god awful race. But guess what, guys? It's time to do the driver ratings. We had quali, we had sprint quali, we had the sprint race, and then we had the race. So there's a lot to race these. There's a lot to race. There's a lot to rate these drivers on. But we're going to go for the classification in the race, and I'm going to work my way up, and I'm going to factor in the whole weekend. So for that reason alone, that is where we are going to go, guys. So boom, 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 boom. We have Nick De Vries. Awful weekend. Wizzy, the worst driver this weekend. Personally, I honestly think the worst driver this weekend was Valtteri Bottas. Another weekend where he's just at the back doing nothing. Now, his qualifying 13th wasn't too bad for Bottas, but he was bad. But we'll rate De Vries first. Going to give him a 1. You know what? He made a lot of mistakes, but I genuinely think he had pace. We've seen that in the practice, but you know, what good's the only session you perform in if it's practice, especially when it's one of them. Anyway, Guan Yu Zhou, retired, qualified 15th. I'm going to give him a 4. It was unanimous. Bottas up next. I'm going to give him a 1. Now, apparently there was damage on his car, but it's the third weekend in a row, folks, where Valtteri Bottas has had absolutely no pace. Nico Hulkenberg, I am going to give a 5. The Haas did not look quick this weekend. He started through the pit lane, and you know what? He running the points for most of the race until he did a late. Oh, he didn't even do a late stop. He stayed out. So, yeah, they went for a strategy that didn't work. But you know what? He's shown decent pace to battle in the midfield. So it's a 5 for me. Up next is Logan Sargent, qualified 14th, finished 16th. It's a 5. I mean, I don't really expect much of Logan Sargent, so this was alright. Esteban Ocon started in the pit lane. Had that whole drama where he near ran over about 100 people. So I'm going to give him. What am I going to give Esteban Ocon? He finished last in the sprint as well. There's no it's an awful weekend for Alpine, man. I'm going to give him a 2. Up next is Pierre Gasly. Crashed in quali. Didn't exactly set the world alight in the sprint. I'm going to give him a 1. He was another awful weekend for Alpine. Kevin Magnussen finished 13th, qualified 16th. Nowhere all weekend, if we're being honest, but I'll give him the same rating as Hulkenberg. Next up, Alexander Albon. Probably unlucky to get points. I mean, he finished 9th in the sprint, which is quite good. If we're being honest with ourselves, 9th in the sprint is actually a pretty decent job. So we'll give him a 6. Oscar Piastri suffering from food poisoning, I believe, all weekend. Got 10th in the sprint, got 11th in the race. Didn't get any points, of course, for that. But you know what? I'll give him a 6. Moving on, Yuki Tsunoda. Such a mixed bag. So good in quali. With P8, got a point. So very consistent. But the sprint was awful. So I'm going to give Yuki Tsunoda a 7 out of 10. Up next with Lando Norris. He finished 9th. He said they actually underperformed the car and that he should have got 4th in quali. So I'll give him a 7 out of 10. Next up with George Russell. Did good in the sprint, but didn't do good in the race or in qualifying. So it's going to be a 4 for me. George Russell, very poor weekend. I mean, Hamilton overtook him with ease in the race. So just no fight whatsoever. Did not get it, but we move on. Up next, Lance Stroll, qualified 9th and finished 7th. He should have been finishing 5th in this race. Let's be real, that is where that Aston Martin belongs. He should have been. I mean, he let Hamilton past him, man. Awful mistake. And yeah, he's underperforming, man. You can just see. When you look where Alonso's putting the car and look where Lance Stroll's putting the car. Come on. And see these people that think here, if you put Vettel in Stroll's seat, he'd be doing anywhere near Alonso. They're delusional. But anyway, I digress. Up next with Lewis Hamilton. Finished 7th in the sprint, qualified 5th, finished 6th. Got really shafted by the safety car, but managed to fight his way through. So I'm going to give Lewis Hamilton a 6 out of 10. Up next with Carlos Sainz. Finished 5th in the sprint, qualified 4th, finished 5th. awful weekend, if we're being honest. Nowhere near his teammate, but you know what? That's, you can see if you're having an awful weekend, you still have to pick up points, and that's what he did, and it was a decent amount of points. So we'll give Carlos Sainz a 5. Up next, Fernando Alonso. I mean, I'll be fair to him and Stroll. They were hampered with DRS issues all weekend, but look at Alonso's doing, man. Stroll is nowhere near Alonso, and he was unlucky probably in the end not to get a podium. But I'm going to give Alonso. I'm going to give Alonso a 7 out of 10. Really good move on Sainz. Well, Charles Leclerc, he is getting a 9 from me. Got pole position twice. Was the only guy really to take the fight to the Red Bulls. Yeah, driver of the weekend for me. Max Verstappen, just not on the pace of Perez or Leclerc. I mean, obviously he's faster than Leclerc, but you just didn't know. It just didn't. I thought if anyone was going to take pole off Leclerc, it was going to be Perez. And yeah, Verstappen, I'm going to give Verstappen a 5. Just really liked the pace all weekend. Sergio Perez, though, you know what? He won the sprint. He won the race. Despite starting third in the race, he won it, which was good. Probably, he did get lucky with the safety car, but you know what? I think he would overtook Max on that lap anyway. So, yeah, I'm going to give Sergio Perez a 9 out of 10 as well. So him and Leclerc both get 9s. I'm giving Leclerc driver of the weekend, though. And that's it for Fog Racing. Make sure you check out everything else. Check out the shorts. Like, comment, subscribe. And guess what, guys? It's Miami this week. It's race week again, and Miami's not that good, but it's hot. Hopefully there's tire deg or something. Come on, give us it.